Beyond the Gates spoilers note, the CBS soap just released its promo video for the week of July 25, where Eva&Thomas and Thomas Navarro kiss, while Nicole Richardson is ready to press the button on divorce, and Naomi Hawthorne has a warning. The BTG preview opened up with a scene between Bill Hamilton and Chelsea Hamilton in his office as his youngest daughter lashes out at him. She tells her dad that she's been trying to get hold of him for hours and that she can't believe he's placed them in this position. It sounds like Martin Richardson's secret and cover-up will hit the rest of the Dupree family, and many will be outraged with Bill's role in it all. Speaking of, Nicole and Ted Richardson will also have a face-off, as it sounds like she's ready to press the button on a divorce. Nicole just found out about Martin's traumatizing night 2 years ago during the Friday, July 18th episode, and she flew out of her parents' house reeling, especially when she learned that Ted was kept in the loop, but she was not. During the scene between Ted and Nicole, he'll acknowledge that the situation looks bad. After all, this is the second lie she's caught him in within a span of 2 months, and Nicole will state, "Then you will understand why I'm taking these next steps." Yikes, Ted's chances for a romantic reunion with Nicole are 0% at this point. The next clip shows Martin as he gets emotional over how he could lose his family over all this, while Anita Dupree, Vernon Dupree, and Naomi sadly watch on while at the Dupree mansion. It sounds like Bradley Smitty Smith is not interested in allowing Martin back home anytime soon. As the Beyond the Gates preview rolls on, the next scene shows Eva and Thomas in a bona fide lip lock, while Ted tells Catherine, Kat Richardson, that Eva would never go after Thomas, since she knows Kat's seeing him, stating, "Sunday's so that's not who she is." Boy, Ted doesn't know his daughter as well as he thinks he does. Meanwhile, as the promo wraps up, Naomi and Jacob Hawthorne are in their home. As she notes, "I'm never more proud to be a Dupree than when I'm defending us. And last time I checked, you are one of us." Jacob is staring at her with a concerned look on his face. It sounds like Jacob will be brought into the loop about Martin's secret. But could this cause marital issues between him and Naomi? Elsewhere, Naomi, Vernon, and Anita are shown next, as the granddaughter tells her grandparents, "I think you need to prepare for this may not stay covered for long." As the BTG promo comes to an end, there's an explosive argument between Bill and Nicole that closes things. Bill angrily tells Nicole that he was the one who saved her baby boy, while she bites back, "I'm the fixer now." Beyond the Gates spoilers for the week of July 21st to 25 hint that the next 5 days will be all about the aftermath of Martin's secret coming out, so fans need to brace for chaos, bombshells, and explosive confrontations. Beyond the Gates spoilers note that fans may expect to see some changes in the plot twists and drama as Ron Carlivati is leaving the new CBS soap's writing team. Michelle Val-Jean, creator, head writer, and executive producer of BTG, hopped on the social media platform X to inform fans of Carlivati's exit. In her post, she writes, "So grateful to have had @Carlivati in the writer's room to help launch #BeyondTheGates." Val-Jean adds, "We send him off with love and gratitude and wish him all the best in whatever comes next. Love you, Ron, and thank you from my heart." Carlivati is a veteran writer in the land of daytime drama, getting his foot in the door in 1996, working as a writer's assistant for One Life to Live. He would end up being promoted to co-head writer, working with Dina Higley. However, by year's end, he held the role on his own. He worked with OLTL until the show ended in 2012 and transitioned to General Hospital's head writer. Carlivati joined Days of Our Lives in 2017 as their head writer until July 2024. Paula Quickly and John Marie Ford replaced him, and while his exit was effective immediately, the episodes he wrote were broadcast right through to April 2025. With that said, in November 2024, it was announced that Carlivati was hired to work on the Beyond the Gates writing team as a breakdown writer. The new CBS soap made history this past February, when it became the first daytime drama to debut on cable since '99. As of this writing, it's unclear the reason behind Carlivati's departure from Beyond the Gates, so stay tuned for any additional updates. Beyond the Gates spoilers note that things are certainly heating up in the land of Fairmont Crest. with secrets being revealed, romances exploding, and plenty of chaos lately. So how will this writing team exit impact the storyline? Only time will tell. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think Martin's secret was, well, worth being kept secret. Yes, he killed a man, but it was in defense of both himself and his grandfather. I'm not exactly disappointed by this long-awaited revelation, but I wasn't particularly excited by it either. Maybe if Martin had really been devolving over the past few months, or Kenny had shown up earlier in the story, I might have cared more. But at the end of the day, Anita's retelling of the story to Nicole was more gripping than the months we spent trying to figure out what had happened on that dark road 2 years ago. The whole thing might have had a bigger impact if other stories were picking up steam at the same time. There was some mild crossover action late in the game, and the cop corruption story involving Jacob and Smitty was smart and will give the fallout some legs. One thing I've really loved is the interactions between Bill and Vernon. We can see how what went down that night impacted Bill's marriage to Vernon's daughter, Dani. Not that I want them back together, but more of this being woven into the storyline earlier might have made the whole package more enticing. Moving forward, ramping up Nicole's justified anger is a great opportunity to spin her off into a bigger story of her own. I'm glad she's not allowing anyone to gaslight her. We've never seen any indication that she's too delicate to handle a difficult situation. She didn't crumble when she found out about Leslie and Eva, and long before then, she had the strength to get through several miscarriages, so she should have been looped into the Martin mess from the very start. Too often, women are expected to simply get over things and not rock the boat. I'm interested to see exactly where Nicole goes now that she knows she was kept in the dark yet again by the people who supposedly love her the most. I know this was a big Martin week, but what happened when Ted took Leslie home? I'm dying to know. Martin and Smitty can break up as far as I'm concerned. They say they love each other, but I'm just not feeling it. I want to see if they have better chemistry with other people. Is Bill still waiting on that baby ultrasound from the doctors? Also, does he not need the cane anymore? I think Haley needs to take a comprehension test. Ashley laid out pretty clearly why she and Naomi aren't friends with her anymore, and Haley glossed right over what she'd been told. That poor fake baby she's not really carrying. I wasn't buying the idea that Joey would put Vanessa before his business, so I appreciated him laying his cards on the table, as it were, with her. It's too early in their twisted situationship. Let's wrap up the June story, please. I don't care about June or her relationship with her sister. I care about Naomi and her family drama. We begin at Dupree Manor, where Nicole is heartbroken to get confirmation about Martin and Smitty's split. She's relieved to hear there was no infidelity, but Martin tells his mother not to breathe so easily. "What I did was a hell of a lot worse," he says. Beyond wanting answers, Nicole also demands to know why she was kept in the dark. "I was hurt," she says. "That doesn't mean I don't need to know what's going on with my own son." She even gets upset with Anita for not telling her that she's back from Chicago. "You've been kept in the dark long enough," Vernon admits. Unfortunately, Martin is in no mood to talk. He's exhausted, he's drained, and he's hungry, so he and Vernon go off to the country club while Nicole stays behind with Anita. Anita tries to explain, in the nicest way possible, that Nicole hasn't known the same hardships that she and Vernon have known, possibly due to them sheltering her. "What I'm about to tell you will demand not only your attention, but your willingness to confront the aftermath in all its ugliness," Anita says, before sharing every tragic detail. By the time Anita finishes her story, both she and Nicole are in tears. "Ted performed this surgery, and I never knew?" she asks. "Martin killed a man, and I never knew? How could you all have kept this from me? I wasn't allowed to help my own son, because you and Daddy decided to play God." Anita stands her ground. "I understand the world in which we live. I understand that no matter how much progress we've made, a black man defending himself against a racist attack will most likely end up in the system. So no, I am not apologizing." And in that moment, Vernon could not get past protecting his grandson, which is why I signed on to keep this quiet for the very same reason. Anita admits that their family went to extreme measures here, And maybe they should have called the police. But have you heard one word of what I just told you? Vernon and I thought what we always think: to protect this family no matter what. Nicole is unimpressed, telling Anita that she sounds like a mobster. You put my son through 2 years of hell so we almighty Duprees could save face. That is not noble. It's disgusting. Anita can't believe Nicole would speak to her that way over a difficulty their family is facing. But Nicole says this is far more than just a difficulty. Anita insists that none of their decisions were about saving face, only about protecting Martin. She begs Nicole not to leave in anger, but nothing can stop her from walking out the door. Martin and Vernon grab their usual table at the country club, where they discuss Martin's biggest regret: not telling Smitty. Vernon says there's no guarantee that telling Smitty would have solved anything, but Martin remains conflicted. Vernon tells Martin to remember the love he and Smitty have for one another, regardless of whatever current situation is weighing them down. Vernon believes Martin's marriage will survive this, as long as he's able to find the fight inside of him. It may be hard to believe, but this too will pass, Vernon tells him. Back at home, Samantha is having a particularly difficult time processing Martin's big move, asking Smitty if there's any chance of him forgiving Martin. He's my husband and I love him, but I can't live with him after all that he's done, Smitty replies. At least not right now. Smitty offers Samantha a glimpse into what Martin has been experiencing for the past few years, including the nightmares. She says that Smitty keeping this from her is the same as Martin keeping his secrets from Smitty, but it's not the same, as Smitty attempts to explain. She understands the gravity of the situation, but she wants Smitty to keep talking to Martin, to hopefully find a way through this as a family. Over at the precinct, Jacob is confused as to why his father is in no rush to identify the man who was just shot in the alleged robbery gone wrong. Chief Hawthorne doesn't appreciate Jacob questioning his authority, so he tells him to focus on his own cases. When Jacob asks if Malone was the officer who found the body in the park, Chief Hawthorne tells his son to stop asking questions before he gets hurt. When Jacob hears about the drama at Martin's press conference, he pays an angry visit to Smitty, asking why he left that part of the story out the last time they spoke. Jacob asks why Martin canceled the press conference when he received the photo, but Smitty says he doesn't know anything. As Jacob presses for more answers, Smitty tells him, "If you have something to say, Jacob, spit it out." Jacob manages to put a few more pieces together, deducing that Martin isn't just a victim in this situation. He's involved in it, and that terrifies Smitty. Jacob says Martin's actions make him look guilty, which means he probably is. Smitty tells Jacob to leave, but Jacob tells him not to quit now. Smitty even uses spousal privilege. "Legally, I don't have to answer your questions," Smitty says, to which Jacob replies, "Funny thing is, you just did. Look, whatever happens, I'm sorry. I really am." Smitty ends the night by sad scrolling through old pictures of him and Martin, remembering when they first brought home Tyrell and Samantha. And speaking of the kids, Samantha is now convinced that there's more to Martin's story after eavesdropping on Jacob and Smitty. Beyond the Gates spoilers reveal that Martin Richardson's secret has finally been revealed, and everything makes sense to fans. However, viewers now have to brace for the backlash. After all, during the Wednesday, July 16th episode, Martin finally came clean to his husband, Bradley Smitty Smith. So it's only a matter of time before Nicole Richardson finds out. How will she react when she realizes that Ted Richardson kept another secret from her? How will she feel when she finds out that her parents kept her out of the loop, too? Beyond the Gates spoilers remind fans it was a mere 2 months ago that Nicole found out that her perfect marriage wasn't so perfect. She found out that Ted had an affair decades ago with Leslie Thomas, which resulted in an unknown and illegitimate child, Eva&Thomas. Nicole has been hesitant about forgiving Ted when it comes to his affair. Once she learns he knew about Martin's secret and never told her, a romantic reunion will be completely out of the cards. But will it be worse and a bigger betrayal to find out that Vernon Dupree and Anita Dupree brought Ted into the fold, but not her? This could have Nicole turning her back on her parents, at least until she cools off. With that said, what about Martin? It feels as if Martin was simply following instructions this entire time, like he was in fight or flight mode. Should he be blamed for going with what Vernon said and keeping his mom out of things? He did suffer a tremendous amount of trauma from the night. Then again, Martin wasn't a child when this all happened. He was a grown adult, and a congressman at that. Who will Nicole cut out of her life, and who will she allow in once she finds out about Martin's secret? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Tune into the new CBS soap regularly for all the drama, and check out this site often for the best. Beyond the Gates news, updates, and spoilers. Here's what went down Thursday, July 17th, 2025, on Beyond the Gates. When we got a first mention of Bill's father, Anita probably wished that she'd stayed on the plane, and Jacob smelled a rat after the discovery of Kenneth's body. On Beyond the Gates, Bill shared a drink with Danny at the country club, with Danny wisely intuiting that her ex-husband didn't want to talk specifics about his spat with Vernon. After Bill said he had met his read for filth quota, he abruptly admitted that he still felt a need for the patriarch's approval. Danny knew that Bill didn't need approval from his own father, who had only withheld it because the young Bill had once wanted it very badly. Bill assumed that Daddy's girl Danny wouldn't understand the fact that respect from the legendary Vernon Dupree had always meant a lot to him. Yet Bill couldn't help but admire the way Vernon had gone for the jugular with him. Anita demanded that Vernon tell her what had been happening with Martin in her absence. Vernon described how, despite having been paid off, Kenneth had come back and run recon on Martin for over a month. La Dupree was upset that Vernon had known for that long and hadn't filled her in. Vernon confirmed that things had spun out of control when Kenneth had accosted Tyrell and Samantha. After Vernon explained that Kenneth was dead, a shocked Anita wanted to know if Vernon had ordered it. Vernon vowed he hadn't, and that leaving the details to Bill had been a mistake. Anita differed, noting there was no way to know that Bill would resort to murder. Vernon berated himself for allowing Joey into the loop, and worried that he would be seen as masterminding Kenneth's death. Anita reminded Vernon of his moral compass, and called Joey's influence on Bill toxic. Mr. Dupree relayed how Martin had been ready to confess to his violent handling of the hate crime, so he couldn't be in Joey's debt. Anita sighed that Martin was now tied to Joey forever, and was in disbelief that Vernon hadn't even hinted at the goings-on during all their phone calls. Vernon sheepishly said he hadn't wanted to interfere in the Articulatsio's reunion. Anita scoffed that they had sabotaged that all by themselves. La Dupree supposed that perhaps the concert had fallen apart because she was needed at home, and needed more by her family than by a couple of unappreciative, bickering former groupmates. Vernon was glad that Anita was home, even if she was mad at him. Anita decided they needed to determine what to tell their family and the public, as the conference and its blunt ending had earned its share of media attention. The mother was also concerned by how daughter Nicole would react to her son and estranged husband being embroiled in yet another secret kept from her. The Duprees discussed Nicole's probable feelings of further betrayal and how Danny would come down on them as well for keeping Martin's incident quiet from her. Vernon cast doubt on how they had handled things and fretted that they had robbed Martin of his opportunity to heal by forcing him to go on, as if the hate crime hadn't happened. Anita was then chastened to hear that Smitty had been assigned to do a fluff piece on Marcel, and that the investigative reporter had gone much deeper than that, and involved Jacob. Anita was disquieted that Smitty might go public with what he knew about Marcel's connection to Joey, and the fact that Vernon had stood up for Marcel during Marcel's inquiry. Vernon bet on Smitty's need to protect his husband first before any loyalty to his profession. At the Richardson-Smith condo, Smitty was bewildered that Kenneth was dead when he had just seen him alive hours earlier. When Smitty wondered if Martin's determination to go out and defend their family had resulted in the death, Martin swore he'd had nothing to do with it. It had only been when he was ready to reveal his secret to the public at his press conference that he had learned about Kenneth's demise. Smitty realized that Martin knew who had acted on his behalf and challenged his husband to tell him who had gunned Kenneth down. Though Martin swore that Vernon hadn't arranged for Kenneth to be taken out, Smitty had his own ideas about who had ordered the hit on him, and the reporter seethed that he couldn't trust Martin to be forthcoming with that information. Martin professed that his family had kept him so in the dark that he had only just discovered that Ted had performed plastic surgery on Kenneth. Smitty was still peeved that Martin had involved Marcel by tasking him with protecting them. Martin didn't know how much Marcel had had to do with Kenneth's fate, but he didn't think it a coincidence that Joey had shown up at his presser. Smitty didn't like that Joey had been connected to the events in any fashion. Samantha and Tyrell came downstairs and wouldn't take no for an answer when they declared that they needed to know what was going on between their parents. Martin agreed and offered to fill his kids in, while Smitty shook his head. The congressman gave the teens a slightly sanitized version of events, remarking that he and Vernon hadn't gone to the police in the rural area of the incident because they couldn't have been sure the authorities wouldn't have taken Kenneth's side. "Why didn't you just tell us the truth from the very beginning?" Tyrell asked upon learning that Kenneth was the racist who had attacked his elders. Smitty spread his hands in agreement. Martin understood that he had made things worse with his silence. Samantha questioned whether or not they could file a restraining order against Kenneth, but Martin hesitantly told the kids that Kenneth was gone. Tyrell and Samantha assumed that Kenneth was on the lam because Martin was going to expose him during his press conference, but they couldn't reconcile that with the fact that Martin had sent the reporters home. Martin would only repeat that Kenneth was no longer a threat. Samantha wanted to know why Smitty was still being so salty. In her eyes, her pop had saved her great-granddad from racists. Smitty assured his daughter that he wasn't trying to punish Martin, while Tyrell understood Smitty's anger over Martin having lied so much. Martin realized it was going to take more than apologies to make things right, and Smitty stonily concurred that he couldn't make any promises. Tyrell and Samantha received Martin's promise that he would be reachable after Martin took Smitty's cue to leave the house. Samantha rolled her eyes and ran upstairs. Tyrell offered to talk to Samantha on Smitty's behalf. Vanessa visited Nicole, who was still riled up after dealing with that bitch Leslie. Nicole explained how she had nearly strangled Leslie after Leslie had made crass references to her sexcapades with Ted. Nicole remained floored that she had been capable of violence. Vanessa promised to keep Nicole's tussle with Leslie a secret and assured her no one was thinking of anything but Martin's bizarre press conference. This was the first Nicole had heard about it, and she groused that nobody tells me a damn thing anymore. Nicole did a search about the presser online and found a photo of Martin standing next to Bill. Vanessa described how the ordinarily combative Bill had had nothing but kind words about Martin and had functioned as a sort of spokesperson for him. Nicole saw the reporting about the family emergency that had ground the event to a halt and became confused, as, to her knowledge, there had been no such emergency. Vanessa shared her observations that Martin had been stunned into silence after Bill had shown him something on his phone, and how Vernon had laid into Bill once Martin had left. Nicole scoffed that, even with her advanced degrees, no one had come to her for help, but Vanessa impressed upon Nicole that her son was in some sort of trouble. Taking Vanessa's advice, Nicole went to see Martin and came upon Smitty, who tried not to react as she presumed that everything was normal in her son's household. But when a sullen Samantha ventured downstairs, hoping Martin had returned, Smitty had to admit that Martin was staying elsewhere for the time being. Nicole didn't think Martin's press conference would be about any separation. Smitty counseled his mother-in-law to get the reasons from Martin directly. Nicole gently affirmed that Samantha, Tyrell, and Smitty all had plenty of family around them who loved them. Smitty expressed his appreciation. Samantha told Tyrell she couldn't see why Smitty couldn't just forgive Martin after he had confessed everything. She likened it to the breakup of grandparents Ted and Nicole, whom the girl guessed barely spoke anymore. Tyrell praised Smitty for stopping the cycle of lies by refusing to give Martin a free pass, and advised his sister not to get caught up in the cycle herself by wanting their parents to simply forgive and forget. After Samantha tried to equate Martin's sins of omission with Tyrell's, when he had tried to hold back being bullied at school, Tyrell insisted that it had only involved him. Martin's lies had involved all of them, and Tyrell felt terrible for allowing Kenneth into their home. Plus, there was no way of knowing what Kenneth might have done to Samantha had Martin not happened upon them at the park. Samantha considered the matter closed now that Martin had admitted everything, but Tyrell had deduced from their father's glances that there was a lot more about the situation that they hadn't been told. Smitty let Jacob in and downplayed Jacob's report that an unidentified man had been found dead from a gunshot wound in a nearby park. Jacob added that Marcel had found the body and that he suspected the man had somehow run afoul of Joey. When Smitty didn't think much of the connection, Jacob became alarmed that Smitty seemed to have cooled about Marcel. The detective didn't think the man was dead simply because of a botched robbery. Smitty cited exhaustion and didn't want to delve further into the subject with Jacob, who was sympathetic when he heard that Martin had moved out. Nodding, Smitty reinforced that he couldn't deal with Marcel conveniently stumbling upon a cadaver because of Martin. Martin arrived at the Dupree home rolling in suitcases, telling his grandparents how he had toned down the events with Kenneth for his kids' sake and that he didn't blame Smitty for throwing him out. Anita said that she and Vernon regretted coercing Martin into keeping quiet, but Martin replied that he had been grown and had made his own choices. In hindsight, Martin felt that if he had been honest with Smitty the night he had defended himself and Vernon against the hate crime, Smitty would have stood by him while simultaneously compelling him to face the repercussions, instead of allowing him to cover things up. Vernon allowed that he'd been wrong for setting everything in motion and that he'd acted out of fear. Anita cut her husband some slack, as the county where Kenneth had confronted Martin and Vernon was notorious for its racism, with black drivers being assaulted during traffic stops. She understood how it might have looked for any black man to have killed one white man and maimed another, even in self-defense. Vernon thought back and realized that he could have used his connections to navigate the legal fallout, even if it meant the end of Martin's political career, because he didn't. And now they all had Kenneth's blood on their hands. Even worse, Vernon made clear, it was no longer possible to come forward, as it would mean implicating Joey, who would surely retaliate. When Vernon wanted to explain things to Smitty and apologize, Martin thought it better that Smitty have the time and space to process everything he had just learned. As Anita was telling Martin that they could all depend on each other, Nicole burst in and demanded, "Someone needs to tell me what the hell is going on here!" Beyond the Gates, spoilers for Friday, July 18th, indicate some massive bombshells on the horizon as Anita Dupree gives a stern talking to someone, while Samantha Richardson makes a plea. Plus, Elon Hawthorne takes control. Read on to learn more about what's coming up on the CBS soap. Beyond the Gates, spoilers for Friday, July 18th, reveal that Anita will give one of her daughters a stern talking to, and considering what unfolded this week, it's hard to think that the daughter that's being referred to is Danny Dupree. Not that Danny couldn't use a stern talking to, it's just that with Martin Richardson's secret exploding to the forefront, it sounds like Anita and Nicole Richardson could have a confrontation during Friday's show. Speaking of Martin's secret, Samantha will plead with her father. However, the added teasers don't reveal which father she is talking to. Is it her pops, Martin, or her dad, Bradley Smitty Smith? As Smitty kicked Martin out of the house this week, and Samantha begged her dad not to be so hard on him, it looks like she may plead with Smitty to allow him to return. Smitty's reaction to things is understandable, but now that fans have learned Martin's secret, many can understand why he acted the way he did too, especially considering the trauma he endured and the political position he holds. In other related news, Beyond the Gates, spoilers for Friday hint that Elon will put his son Jacob Hawthorne in his place and take control over a certain investigation. Could this be the investigation surrounding Kenny's demise? As fans know, during the Tuesday, July 15th show, Martin was ready to tell the press about his secret night 2 years ago when Bill Hamilton stepped in and handled the situation. Joey Armstrong was called in and gave Detective Marcel Malone the dire assignment of getting rid of Kenny, and unlike Randy Parker, Marcel got the job done. Now, the police are investigating, so it sounds like Elon will step in to ensure the case gets closed before anyone can point the finger at Marcel. But will Jacob step back or possibly out his dad and Marcel? What are you looking forward to most for Friday? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Tune into the new CBS soap regularly for all the drama, and check out CTS often for the best Beyond the Gates news, updates, and spoilers.